Chronicles of the wanderers who built a home between galaxies. The stars stretched endlessly around them, a sea of silver fire spilling across the dark velvet of space. Aboard the starship Nomad, the wanderers drifted silently between two galaxies, far from any known system, following a call they did not fully understand. The ship hummed softly, its core pulsing like a heartbeat, echoing the restless energy of its passengers. Leora stood at the observation deck, hands pressed against the transparent barrier, feeling the cold emptiness of space settle into her bones. "It's beautiful," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "So alive, even out here." Across the deck, Kael, the ship's navigator, shook his head, smiling. "Beautiful, yes. But alive? I'd say it's indifferent. Stars don't care if we live or die." Leora turned, her hair floating slightly in zero gravity. "Maybe that's why we're here. To matter somewhere that doesn't care if we exist." A soft chime sounded, interrupting their conversation. The ship's AI, an ethereal voice named Sileyes, spoke with calm neutrality. "Approaching the Veil Nebula. Potential planetary candidates for settlement detected beyond the cluster. Estimated travel time, 17 hours. 17 hours, Kael muttered, checking the navigation interface. Long enough to debate if we're crazy or brilliant for trying to settle between galaxies. Leora smiled faintly. "I've stopped worrying about being brilliant. If we survive, that will be enough." The wanderers were not ordinary travelers. Each carried a story of loss, exile, or curiosity too deep to be satisfied within the boundaries of their home galaxies. Together, they had left behind dying worlds, tyrannical regimes, and memories that threatened to crush them. Their mission was simple in theory: find a place beyond the reach of known civilizations, and make it home. But space did not yield its secrets easily. In the mess hall, others gathered, voices low with the weight of anticipation. Some tinkered with tools, others stared out into the endless void, and a few simply meditated, trying to quiet the ache of displacement. Among them was Leora, a biologist who had spent decades cataloging life in systems no one else dared visit. She was examining a small, glowing vial filled with a luminous liquid that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's core. "What do you have there?" asked Ryn, a historian who chronicled the wanderer's journey in meticulous journals. Leora smiled without looking up. "Samples from the Veil Nebula. Strange energy signatures. I think life exists there, but not as we know it." Ryn leaned closer. "Not as we know it? Meaning?" "Meaning," Leora said, finally meeting his eyes. "It could either save us or destroy us. Either way, it will change everything about how we understand survival." Kael entered the mess hall, rubbing his eyes. "Enough talk of destruction. We still have 17 hours of travel. I suggest sleep cycles and preparation. We don't know what's waiting on the other side." 17 hours later, the ship emerged from the Veil Nebula into a region of space that felt almost sacred. A small planetary system lay before them, its central star dim and gentle, casting amber light over the 4 orbiting worlds. One planet, rich with swirling clouds and oceans that glimmered like liquid silver, caught the wanderer's attention. Leora pressed her hands to the viewport again. "That's it. That's where we belong." Sileyes' voice broke the silence. "Atmospheric analysis indicates breathable air, moderate gravity, and diverse ecosystems. Preliminary scans detect no sentient life forms." Ryn clutched his journal. "No sentient life? That means we're the first to leave a footprint here." Kael adjusted the controls, steering the ship into orbit. "Then let's make it count. Every decision from here shapes what the world becomes for us, and for anyone who follows." The descent to the planet was gentle, almost reverent, as if the universe itself held its breath. The wanderers prepared their landing pods, double-checking supplies and tools. Leora secured her vials of strange energy, while Ryn made one last entry in his journal. "This is more than survival," he murmured. "It is creation. We are about to build a home in the silence between galaxies, a testament that life can endure even where no one has lived before." The landing pods touched the surface, kicking up silver dust that sparkled in the planet's soft sunlight. The air smelled faintly of ozone and salt, carrying a promise of unknown flora and fauna. The wanderers stepped out, boots sinking slightly into the soil, and a collective shiver of awe ran through them. "This will be our beginning," Leora said, her voice steady. "Our mistakes and triumphs will shape this world." Kael looked around, noting the rolling plains, the distant mountains, and the shimmering seas.
It's perfect in ways we can't yet understand, but perfection demands effort and sacrifice. Leora knelt to touch the soil.
Life here is old. Waiting. It will watch us, judge us, and maybe teach us. For the first time in decades, the wanderers felt a profound sense of belonging. They had no home to return to, no galaxy to claim them, but here, in the space between worlds, they could shape their destiny. They would plant seeds, both literal and metaphorical, and construct a sanctuary that might endure for centuries. The sun dipped below the distant mountains, casting long shadows and bathing the landscape in golden light. Around their camp, small fires crackled as the wanderers shared food, stories, and quiet laughter. Though exhaustion tugged at them, hope shone brighter than any star they had left behind. That night, Leora stayed awake on a hill overlooking the camp. Above her, the twin galaxies glittered like spilled ink, stretching endlessly, a reminder of the vastness that cradled them. Somewhere in that darkness, countless worlds waited, but for now, this one was theirs. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath her feet. "We are the Wanderers, and this is our home." Morning arrived gently on the new world, sunlight spilling over hills of soft silver grass. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of minerals and distant oceans. The wanderers moved among their landing pods, stretching stiff limbs, eyes bright with a mix of curiosity and determination. Today, they would take the first tangible steps toward building a home.
Leora called the group together. "We need to understand this planet before we change it. That means mapping, sampling, and scouting.
Everyone has a role." Leora led the biological survey, collecting plants that shimmered faintly and soil that hummed under her touch. "These plants, they respond to light and sound," she noted, holding up a small, translucent flower that bent toward her voice. "It's almost intelligent." Ryn, journal in hand, walked alongside her. "Intelligent or not, we document it all. This world will be remembered as it was, before we leave any mark." Kael, meanwhile, took the more practical role of planning their settlement. Using digital maps, he outlined a location near the ocean, where freshwater met fertile plains. "We'll build near resources," he said, "but not so close that we disrupt the land's natural cycles. We are guests first, builders second." The wanderers split into small teams, moving through forests that shimmered with bioluminescence, valleys that hummed faintly underfoot, and plains that stretched like mirrors to the distant mountains. Every step revealed something new: a river that ran silver in the sunlight, trees that whispered when the wind passed through their branches, and rocks that seemed to pulse faintly with energy. "This place is alive," murmured Leora, kneeling beside a small pool where tiny creatures danced on the surface. "Not like animals or plants back home, but aware. It's like it's waiting for us." Leora nodded, examining the creatures. "Waiting, yes. For what? I'm not sure. But we must be careful. Life here could be delicate, even if it's strong." As the day wore on, the wanderers began clearing a small area near the coast, marking the outline of their first shelter. Timber-like plants provided raw materials that were surprisingly sturdy, while clay-rich soil offered a base for foundation blocks. Kael worked alongside Leora, lifting heavy slabs and arranging them in a rough semicircle. "This is going to be harder than any map or calculation," he admitted, wiping sweat from his brow. Leora smiled, her hands blackened with soil. "All worthwhile work is hard. And we're not just building a structure, we're building hope." By afternoon, the first shelter stood, modest but strong. It was more than a physical space, it was a symbol. Around it, the wanderers gathered, their faces reflecting the soft light of the planet's twin suns. At that moment, a strange vibration ran through the ground, subtle but persistent. Leora froze, sensing the energy before anyone else. "Something's coming," she said, her voice tense. "Not dangerous, yet. But alive." From the distant forest, a figure emerged, a creature unlike anything they had seen. Its form was fluid, almost liquid, shifting colors with the angle of light. It hovered above the ground, observing the wanderers with curiosity rather than hostility. Leora stepped forward slowly. "We mean no harm," she called, her voice steady but gentle. "We are travelers, looking for a home." The creature responded with a shimmer of colors, pulsing rhythmically as if it understood. It moved closer, cautiously, and Leora noticed the patterns on its body mirrored the energy signatures she had been studying. "It's communicating through light," she whispered.
Ryan raised his journal.
"This could be the first intelligent life we've discovered here. And we've barely stepped onto this world." Kael gestured to the shelter. "Let's give it space. Respect its curiosity, but don't provoke it. If we want to belong here, we need to earn trust, not force it." Over the following days, the wanderers settled into a rhythm. They built more shelters, started small gardens, and tested the planet's resources. The creature, later named Leora by the group, appeared intermittently, observing, sometimes mimicking the wanderers' movements with shimmering gestures. Slowly, a connection formed, subtle but undeniable. Leora often sat with Leora in the evenings, speaking quietly, feeling a strange understanding blossom.
"We're not so different," she murmured.
"You and I, we just want to exist, safely, in this vast universe." Leora's studies progressed as well. She discovered that the planet's flora and fauna responded not only to touch and sound but also to emotion. The silver grass bent slightly toward joy, the water shimmered in sadness, and the forests whispered secrets only the heart could hear. "This planet is alive in ways we never imagined," Leora told the group. "It's a partner, not just a home. We must learn to listen." Ryan chronicled every moment, noting the bond forming between the wanderers and the planet. "We are not conquerors here," he wrote. "We are companions, tending to a world that has waited for understanding. History may call us the builders, but only if we respect what came before us." One evening, as the twin suns dipped beneath the horizon, the wanderers gathered atop a hill overlooking their fledgling settlement. Fires flickered, casting warm light over the silver plains, and Leora hovered near the edge, pulsing in gentle colors.
Leora spoke softly.
"Tomorrow, we begin the larger work, constructing not just shelters, but a home.
A place that can survive the centuries.
And perhaps, a place that can welcome others, if they ever come." Kael nodded, gazing at the horizon. "It will take patience, and it will take care.
But we are wanderers.
If we have survived this far, we can endure what comes next." Leora added, "And we will not be alone. The planet itself watches, learns, and grows with us. If we listen, it will guide us." The night deepened, and the stars emerged, a familiar river of light that connected their home galaxy to this new sanctuary. The wanderers settled into sleep, bodies exhausted but spirits alive, unaware of the subtle movements beneath the soil, where the planet itself began to pulse with anticipation. They had planted the first seeds of their civilization, but the planet was already preparing its response. Life, in forms both strange and beautiful, was awakening to the presence of the wanderers. A home between galaxies was no longer a dream. It was beginning to breathe. The mornings on the new planet grew brighter with each passing day, the twin suns casting long, shifting shadows over the silver grasslands. The wanderers had settled into their work, but the planet, alive in ways they could barely comprehend, began to test them. Leora awoke to a low, resonant hum vibrating through the soil beneath her shelter.
It was not loud, but it carried a weight that made the hairs on her arms stand on end.
"Something is stirring," she murmured, rising quickly. Outside, the rest of the wanderers were already noticing the subtle changes. Trees swayed without wind, rivers shifted in gentle arcs, and even the rocks seemed to pulse with faint energy. Kael frowned as he examined the settlement structures. "Nothing is stable," he said. "The ground itself is alive. Our foundations may not hold if this continues." Leora knelt on the soil, closing her eyes. "It's responding to us. Not angrily, not yet, but it's aware of our presence. Our intentions."
Ryan made a note in his journal.
"We came seeking a home. Perhaps a living world does not simply allow entry, it tests those who wish to inhabit it." The first real trial came when a storm unlike any the wanderers had experienced rolled across the plains. Clouds of deep violet and silver swirled overhead, crackling with strange energy. Rain fell not in drops but in glowing streams that danced across the landscape. The wanderers hurried to secure their shelters, but the storm's power was overwhelming. "This is not ordinary weather," Kael shouted over the roar. "It's controlled, somehow." Leora braced herself against the wind, feeling it tug at her as if the planet itself were questioning her resolve.
"We must endure it.
We came here to belong, and belonging requires respect, even in adversity." Leora reached out to touch the glowing rain. Her hands tingled as the energy flowed through her, revealing fleeting images of strange forests, shimmering oceans, and creatures she had yet to name. It's showing us visions. Lessons, maybe. As the storm passed, the planet's surface glimmered with new life. The wanderers discovered strange plants that had grown overnight, water channels that had shifted to more fertile paths, and the faint footprints of unseen creatures. We are not shaping the planet, Leora realized. It is shaping itself, and us along with it. The wanderers began to understand that survival would require more than physical labor. It demanded understanding, patience, and a willingness to adapt. They spent days observing the environment, learning the rhythms of the planet, and communicating in subtle ways with Leora, who had become their guide of sorts. One morning, Leora led an exploration into a distant valley where the land dipped into a crystalline basin. The air shimmered, and the ground sparkled like crushed diamonds. I feel something calling us, she said, stepping carefully. Kael followed, cautious. Calling? Or warning? They discovered a grove of massive, translucent trees, each one resonating faintly with a musical hum. As they approached, the trees bent toward them, forming archways that guided their steps deeper into the valley. Leora hovered above, pulsing with light, and Yara noted the energy signatures spiking in the soil. This is a sacred place, Yara whispered. Or at least, it is sacred to the planet itself. RYN, recording every detail, asked, Do you think it has memories? A history before us? It does, Yara replied. This world has lived, watched, and learned long before we arrived. And now, it's teaching us how to exist alongside it. Their exploration led to a small pool in the valley center, glowing with a pale blue light. When Leora touched the water, visions flooded her mind. Images of past travelers, storms, and creatures that had risen and fallen. She saw the planet as a conscious entity, its will both protective and demanding. We are guests, she said when the visions subsided. We must tread lightly. If we fail to respect this place, we cannot stay. Over the following weeks, the wanderers faced smaller trials, sudden tremors, unpredictable growth of plants that blocked their paths, and strange, luminous fogs that obscured vision but seemed to guide them toward new resources. Every challenge strengthened their bond with the planet, and with one another. Kael, once solely focused on logistics, began to appreciate the subtle communication of the land. It's teaching us strategy, patience, timing, he said. We can't just impose our will here. We have to work with it. Leora and Yara often meditated with Leora, discovering that the creature could amplify the planet's subtle signals. Through Leora, the wanderers learned to anticipate storms, locate hidden water sources, and even find nutrient-rich soil for their gardens. But the planet also demanded sacrifice. One morning, during a particularly intense storm, a young wanderer named Soren was trapped when a sudden fissure opened in the ground. Leora and Kael rushed to save him, their combined strength barely enough to pull him to safety. Soren's hands were scratched, and his spirit shaken. I thought we could control it, he said, trembling. Leora placed a hand on his shoulder. We don't control it. We coexist. Every mistake teaches us, even if it scares us. That evening, as they huddled around the fires of their growing settlement, RYN reflected aloud. We are learning the true meaning of building a home. It is not brick and timber alone. It is trust, humility, and harmony with life that is older than we are. Yara added quietly, This world can nurture us or challenge us to our limits. It is alive, and it watches. And I think, it is beginning to accept us. Night fell, twin stars dipping below the horizon as the planet itself seemed to pulse in response. The wanderers lay in their shelters, listening to distant calls and hums, feeling for the first time that their presence mattered. In the darkness, Leora whispered to herself, We came to find a home between galaxies, but perhaps the home has already chosen us. The days on the silver plains grew longer, the twin suns tracing arcs across skies that shimmered in hues no human eye had names for. The wanderers had settled into their rhythm, but the planet was far from passive. Every action they took seemed to ripple through the environment, and every decision had consequences they could not fully predict. Leora stood atop a newly cleared hill, surveying the settlement. Small shelters dotted the landscape, interwoven with gardens and water channels, and Leora hovered nearby, pulsing with gentle light. It's beginning to feel like home, she said softly, though she knew that the planet itself would not allow them complacency. Kael joined her, carrying a bundle of tools. Home is only as strong as its foundation.
We've cleared the land, but now we need to build something that lasts.
We need permanence. Leora emerged from the gardens, her hands glowing faintly with the energy she had learned to channel from the planet. And permanence, she said, means understanding the life that lives here. These plants, these streams, even the rocks, they all interact with us. We cannot simply impose structures, we must integrate them. The first permanent building was planned near the ocean, its foundations designed to harmonize with the shifting soil and subtle energy flows. Timber-like plants were bent into supports, and clay mixed with mineral-rich sand from the nearby river hardened into walls that seemed to hum faintly with vitality. As construction progressed, the wanderers began to experience strange phenomena. Small creatures, translucent and ethereal, appeared from forests to observe their work. They were shy but curious, mirroring the wanderers' movements with delicate gestures. Leora named them glints, for the way their bodies caught and reflected light.
RYN recorded every detail.
These beings are witnesses, he wrote in his journal.
Perhaps guides.
Their presence reminds us that we are not alone, even in the silence between galaxies.
But the planet was not without challenges.
One afternoon, a sudden tremor shook the foundations of the growing settlement, collapsing part of a wall under construction. Dust and soil rained down, and the wanderers scrambled to stabilize what remained. Kael knelt, hands dirty and sweat dripping down his face.
It's testing us again. We can't ignore its warnings.
Leora touched the ground, feeling the faint pulse beneath her feet.
It's not anger.
It's correction. We've learned to coexist in small ways, but now we must learn to coexist in permanence. Leora stepped forward, holding her glowing vials.
We need to align our structures with the energy flows.
If we build in harmony, the planet will support us instead of challenging us. Over the following weeks, the wanderers adapted. They mapped energy channels invisible to the naked eye, learning where foundations would be most stable and where crops would flourish. They discovered natural conduits of light and water that could be channeled to their growing settlement, reducing labor while enhancing sustainability. The glints became regular companions, observing construction and even guiding the wanderers toward fertile soil and mineral-rich rock. Leora laughed one evening as a group of glints danced across the newly laid walls, their bodies flashing in bright colors like living paint. It seems even the smallest beings want to help us. Despite these successes, the planet continued to challenge them. One night, a thick, luminous fog rolled across the plains, obscuring the settlements and creating eerie shapes that seemed to move independently. Fires flickered weakly against the unnatural glow, and whispers of wind carried sounds that were almost voices. Kael tightened his grip on a support beam. It's testing our resolve. We must stay calm and focused. Leora stepped into the fog with a lantern.
We don't fear it. We observe it.
We listen. Leora joined her, extending her hands as the fog swirled around them. The luminous mist responded, parting in slow, deliberate patterns. Within the fog, strange symbols glimmered for moments before dissolving into nothingness.
It's teaching, Leora said.
Or maybe warning. The wanderers realized that survival on this planet was as much mental as physical. They could not simply build, they had to understand, communicate, and respect the will of the living world around them. Amid these trials, the settlement continued to grow. Wells of pure water were dug along natural channels, gardens thrived with strange, glowing plants, and the first communal hall began to take shape. Inside, the wanderers held meetings, discussing strategies for expansion, defense, and the long-term goal of building a true home.
Leora addressed the group one evening.
We came seeking a place beyond galaxies, a sanctuary. But this is not just a physical place, it's a partnership.
We must listen as much as we act. We must respect as much as we create.
Only then can we endure. Kael added, every failure teaches us. Every tremor, every fog, every challenge, it guides us toward resilience. And resilience is what will make this home last beyond us. Leora knelt among her plants, letting their faint hum resonate through her hands. We are becoming part of this world, just as it becomes part of us. Every seed we plant, every wall we raise, is a thread in the tapestry of life here. Night fell, and the twin stars dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over the silver plains. Fires flickered across the settlement, casting golden light on the new walls. Leora hovered above, pulsing gently, and the glints danced like living sparks of hope. Leora sat atop a hill, gazing at the settlement. "We have learned much, but we have only begun," she whispered. "The world will continue to test us, but we are ready.
We are the Wanderers. And this is our home." The settlement had begun to take shape in earnest.
Timber walls glimmered faintly with the planet's energy, gardens stretched toward the twin suns, and the first communal hall stood proud, a place of gathering and planning. Yet, for all the beauty and progress, an unease lingered. The planet, alive and aware, had begun to test the Wanderers in ways they had not yet encountered.
It started with subtle changes.
Paths they had cleared overnight became overgrown by morning, water channels shifted without warning, and the glints that once observed curiously now darted away nervously. Leora felt the shift first. "The planet is uneasy," she said, tracing energy lines in the soil. "It's not hostility, but caution, and perhaps warning." Leora gathered the Wanderers in the communal hall. "We've grown comfortable," she said. "Perhaps too comfortable. This world is alive, and like any living being, it has moods. We must pay attention." Kael frowned, examining the outer perimeter. "I've noticed tremors, too. Not small ones, these could affect our structures if they continue. Something is changing." Ryn, ever the chronicler, made a note in his journal. "The world tests those who seek to call it home.
Trials come not to punish, but to ensure understanding."
The true test arrived 3 days later. A strange fog rolled over the plains, thick and dark, carrying a chill that even the twin suns could not dispel. Within the fog, shadows moved, some large, some fluid, shapes that seemed almost alive but not like any creature the Wanderers had seen.
The glints vanished entirely.
Leora and Kael moved through the fog cautiously, guiding the others with lanterns and soft voices. "Stay together," Leora instructed.
"Do not panic. Observe."
Suddenly, a massive shadow surged toward them, towering over the shelters, its form shifting between solid and liquid.
The ground trembled beneath it.
The Wanderers froze, fear gripping them, until Leora stepped forward, her hands glowing with soft energy drawn from the planet. "Wait," she whispered, reaching toward the shadow. "It is part of the world, not our enemy." The shadow hesitated, then pulsed in response to Leora's energy. Slowly, its form shifted again, becoming more defined, almost humanoid, yet entirely alien. Its eyes glowed with the same pale light as Leora, and it emitted a resonant hum. Leora spoke, her voice steady despite the fear.
"We mean no harm.
We are here to live, to respect, to build." The entity responded with a wave of light and vibration, the ground pulsing beneath their feet.
Leora interpreted it.
"It's a guardian, perhaps.
Testing us.
Seeing if we are worthy of this world." For hours, the Wanderers interacted with the guardian. They showed care for the land, repaired structures damaged by the shifting earth, and demonstrated patience and cooperation. Slowly, the entity's movements became less erratic, and the fog lifted, revealing a calm landscape once more. Leora exhaled, leaning on Kael's shoulder. "This world doesn't just provide for us. It tests us.
We cannot simply take.
We must prove we are partners." Over the following days, the Wanderers integrated lessons learned from the Guardian. They adjusted building methods, respecting energy flows, and began planting gardens in alignment with the planet's natural rhythms. Streams were redirected gently, following the subtle currents the planet seemed to guide them toward. The glints returned cautiously, observing with renewed trust. Leora remained a constant companion, guiding the Wanderers and amplifying the world's subtle communications. Despite the challenges, bonds among the Wanderers strengthened. Shared trials and dangers fostered unity, and their understanding of the planet deepened. They discovered areas rich with minerals for construction, fertile soil for gardens, and even small caves that could serve as storage or refuge in emergencies. One evening, as the twin suns set behind distant mountains, the Wanderers gathered atop the hill overlooking their settlement. Fires flickered across the plains, reflecting in the shimmering silver grass. Leora spoke quietly, her gaze on the horizon. "We came seeking a home between galaxies," she said. "But this world does not give itself freely. It demands respect, patience, and understanding. We have passed one test, but surely there are more."
Kael nodded. "We are learning, and we will continue to learn.
Whatever comes, we face it together." Leora reached out, letting her hands hover over the soil, feeling the subtle pulse beneath. "The planet is alive, yes.
But it is also nurturing.
It will guide those who listen, protect those who care, and challenge those who ignore its rhythms. RYN, documenting every moment, closed his journal. Our chronicles will remember this day, not for the fear, but for the lessons.
We are not conquerors.
We are companions, builders, and students of a living world. Night deepened, and the twin stars disappeared beyond the horizon. The settlement rested, the fires casting gentle light over the shelters. Leora hovered above, pulsing in soft colors, while the glints danced like sparks among the silver grass. Leora whispered into the night, "We have survived the shadows.
We have endured the tests. And still, we are home."
This world has chosen to accept us, but we must continue to earn that trust every day. Beneath the surface, the planet pulsed with subtle life, aware of the Wanderer's presence, and already preparing for the next chapter of their shared journey. Months had passed since the Wanderers first set foot on the Silver Plains. Their small settlement had grown into a network of interconnected shelters, gardens, and workshops. Streams of pure water flowed through carefully constructed channels, and the forests surrounding the settlement hummed faintly in response to the Wanderer's presence. The planet had begun to accept them, yet it remained alive with subtle tests and lessons. Leora walked along the edge of a newly planted orchard, feeling the pulse of the soil beneath her boots. "The more we grow, the more we learn," she said quietly, brushing her hand against the leaves of a plant that shimmered in response. "Every seed we plant is part of this world, not just ours." Leora knelt beside her, observing a cluster of plants that bent slightly toward her touch. "They respond to care," she said,
"but also to emotion.
Joy encourages growth, but anger can wither them. We must be mindful not just of our actions, but of our hearts."
Kael arrived with a bundle of timber-like plants.
"We've mapped more energy channels and found a stable site for a larger communal hall. If we continue this pace, we could have a thriving village by the next cycle of the twin suns." RYN followed, journal in hand, chronicling every discovery. A thriving village, that is what this world deserves. Not a settlement imposed on it, but one that lives in harmony with its rhythms.
The Wanderers began to expand their structures.
Using the planet's energy flows, they built foundations that seemed to hum with vitality, walls that absorbed sunlight during the day and released warmth at night, and gardens that intertwined with the natural landscape rather than replacing it. It was during one of these expansion projects that they discovered the first hidden wonders of the planet. While clearing a small grove near the ocean, Leora uncovered an underwater cavern filled with luminescent crystals. The crystals pulsed in rhythm with the planet's energy, creating a soft, resonant hum that resonated through the Wanderers' bodies. "This is incredible," Leora breathed, her eyes wide. "The planet hides its treasures, but also shares them with those who look closely." Leora stepped into the cavern, feeling the warmth of the light against her skin. It's as if the world is offering guidance. Not resources alone, but understanding. We are meant to learn from it, not simply take from it. Kael carefully mapped the cavern, noting safe passages and potential building materials. "If we are careful, this could serve as a sanctuary during storms or other challenges. It's a place where our settlement can expand safely." The glints returned frequently now, guiding the Wanderers to fertile soil, mineral-rich rocks, and hidden water sources. Leora hovered nearby, pulsing gently, its presence a constant reminder of the planet's awareness. Yet even amidst these triumphs, the planet continued to teach lessons through subtle challenges. Sudden shifts in soil required rebuilding foundations, minor tremors threatened fragile structures, and storms tested their ability to work together. Every challenge strengthened their unity and understanding. One evening, as the twin suns dipped behind the distant mountains, Leora gathered the Wanderers for a council. "We've accomplished much, but we must think ahead. This settlement will not remain small forever. We must plan for sustainability, for community, for a future that can endure beyond our lifetimes." RYN nodded, pen in hand. "Our chronicles must reflect not just our survival, but our growth. Every trial, every discovery, every lesson learned here is part of the story we leave behind." Leora added, "And we must continue to honor the planet. It is alive, aware, and it has chosen to guide us. We cannot take this lightly." As night fell, the fires of the settlement flickered across the silver plains. The twin stars disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving the Wanderers under a blanket of unfamiliar constellations. Leora hovered above, pulsing in soft colors, while the glints danced among the newly planted gardens. Leora sat on a hill, watching the settlement below.
"We are no longer just survivors," she whispered. "We are builders, caretakers, and companions of this living world. This is more than a home, it is a promise to ourselves and to the life around us." Beneath the soil and the roots, the planet pulsed in quiet approval, a rhythm that intertwined with the Wanderer's own. The home they were building was no longer a dream. It was a living, breathing reality, a place of hope between galaxies. The settlement had grown into a network of interconnected homes, gardens, and energy-harmonized structures. Streams glimmered in the sunlight, gardens pulsed faintly with the planet's energy, and the glints flitted among the inhabitants like living sparks. Yet, even in this flourishing home, the universe beyond the twin suns remained vast, unpredictable, and full of unknowns. It was during one of the routine energy surveys that Kael noticed the anomaly. "Sensors are picking up a signal," he said, eyes narrowing at the interface. "Not from the planet, something else."
"Something approaching."
Leora's brow furrowed.
"Approaching from where?"
"From the edge of the nebula," Kael replied.
"It's large, and moving deliberately toward us."
Yora's hands tingled as she touched the soil. "The planet is aware of it," she murmured. "And it's cautious. Uneasy."
The Wanderers gathered at the hill overlooking their settlement. The twin suns were low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the silver grass. A shimmering light appeared at the edge of the forest, metallic, moving with purpose. It was unlike any ship the Wanderers had seen before, sleek and organic, its surface reflecting light in rippling patterns. Leora stepped forward, her voice calm but firm.
"We are wanderers of this world. We mean no harm.
We seek only to build a home." The ship landed with a low hum, disturbing the silver grass. From it emerged beings cloaked in reflective armor, their forms humanoid but strange, tall, elongated, and almost fluid in movement. They spoke in a series of musical tones that resonated in the Wanderers' minds rather than their ears. Yora instinctively stepped forward. "They are communicating, not in words, but in emotion. They are testing us." One of the beings approached, its luminescent eyes scanning the settlement.
Leora raised her hands in greeting. "We welcome you," she said.
"We mean no harm." The being paused, then pulsed its light in a slow rhythm. Yora interpreted instinctively. "They are assessing us.
Seeing if we belong here."
"The planet has guided us well, but this is a different challenge." Over the next days, the Wanderers and the new arrivals observed one another cautiously. The alien beings, who Leora named the Luminara, were explorers, wanderers like themselves, seeking refuge and resources. Yet their presence introduced tension. Their methods were alien, disruptive, and at times incompatible with the planet's delicate balance. Kael studied the interactions carefully.
"We've managed to integrate with the planet. Now we have to integrate others without disrupting it.
It's a delicate balance." Yora meditated daily, sending subtle energy signals into the soil and water, trying to communicate with both the planet and the Luminara. Slowly, she began to sense the shared rhythm, the world's pulse, the Wanderer's intentions, and the newcomer's movements. It was fragile harmony, but it existed. RYN chronicled every moment, noting the lessons.
"We are no longer alone.
The universe extends beyond this planet, and it brings challenges and allies. Our chronicles must reflect cooperation, patience, and understanding, lessons the planet itself has taught us." Tensions peaked one evening when the Luminara attempted to harvest resources from the river, disrupting the natural flow. The planet responded subtly at first, currents shifted, plants bent in warning, but then tremors shook the settlement. Leora stepped forward, addressing both the Wanderers and the newcomers.
"This world is alive. It nurtures those who respect it and challenges those who do not.
If we wish to thrive here, we must cooperate, not conquer." The Luminara responded with a complex sequence of lights and vibrations.
Yora interpreted the message.
"They understand, but they need guidance. They do not yet know the ways of this planet." For the next week, the Wanderers acted as mediators, teaching the Luminara how to interact without disrupting the land. Together, they learned to channel energy, plant gardens, and build structures that respected the planet's rhythms. Slowly, trust formed. The Luminara began contributing, helping with construction, planting, and even protecting the settlement from environmental hazards. Leora watched from the hilltop one evening as the settlement thrived under the combined efforts of Wanderers and Luminara. Fires flickered across the plains, streams shimmered in the moonlight, and the twin suns dipped beyond distant mountains.
The glints danced among the inhabitants, and Leora pulsed gently overhead, a symbol of the planet's acceptance. "We have faced shadows," Leora whispered, "tested by the world and by those beyond it. And still, we endure. We grow. We thrive. This is more than a home. It is a sanctuary, a bridge between galaxies, a testament to what can be achieved when respect and understanding guide our hands." Leora extended her hands over the soil, feeling the intertwined pulse of planet, wanderers, and Luminara. "This is a new rhythm," she said. "Not ours alone, but shared. Together, we are learning what it truly means to build a home between galaxies." And beneath the silver plains, through soil and roots, the planet pulsed in quiet approval, a living testament to resilience, cooperation, and hope. Years passed, and the settlement that had begun as a small cluster of shelters grew into a vibrant community, a true home between galaxies. Wanderers, Luminara, and the living planet had formed a delicate harmony, each respecting the others, learning together, and contributing to the flourishing of life. Leora walked along the central avenue of the settlement, lined with luminous plants that pulsed faintly underfoot. Children, both human and Luminara, played among the gardens, their laughter a melody that blended with the planet's subtle hum. Fires flickered along the walkways, illuminating structures built in resonance with the land's energy, and glints danced like sparks across the plains. Kael stood near the ocean, examining a new canal system. "We've come so far," he said softly. "Structures that would have collapsed in the first years now integrate with the planet, strengthening as we grow with it." Leora joined him, holding vials of luminescent water from a deep cavern they had discovered long ago. "The planet still surprises us," she said. "Even now, after all these years, it offers hidden lessons, treasures, and guidance." Leora approached, smiling at the sight of Leora hovering above the gardens, pulsing in rhythm with the planet. "We've learned that a home is not just walls and gardens," she said. "It is care, patience, understanding. It is listening to the world around us, respecting it, and allowing it to shape us as much as we shape it." Ryn, now older, chronicled the settlement from the hilltop. "We arrived as wanderers," he wrote. "Exiles and seekers, searching for a place beyond the galaxies. We faced storms, shadows, and trials. We learned to work with a living world, to communicate with those unlike ourselves, and to build a home that is more than stone and soil. We built a legacy, a story that will endure beyond us." The Luminara had become partners, contributing knowledge, technology, and art. Their musical tones harmonized with the planet's energy, creating structures and gardens that resonated with living light. Even the glints had become guardians, flitting through the settlement to observe and protect. One evening, as the twin suns dipped beneath the horizon, the wanderers gathered atop the hill overlooking the thriving settlement. Fires flickered across the silver plains, casting gentle light over the buildings, gardens, and streams. Leora spoke quietly, her voice carrying across the valley. "We came seeking a home between galaxies. We faced the unknown, endured challenges, and learned from the living world. And now, we are home. Not just a place to survive, but a place to live, to grow, and to belong." The wanderers, the Luminara, and all the life of the settlement gathered in quiet reflection. The journey between galaxies had led them to a place of harmony, hope, and growth. They were no longer merely travelers. They were creators, companions, and caretakers of a living world. Leora whispered to herself, gazing at the stars. "We built a home where none existed before. We endured the trials of the unknown, and we emerged stronger, united, and alive. This is our legacy, a home between galaxies, where life and hope flourish together." And beneath the soil, the roots, and the living essence of the planet, a quiet pulse echoed, steady, strong, and intertwined with the wanderer's own. The home they had built was no longer theirs alone. It was a living testament to cooperation, resilience, and the enduring spirit of those who wander and build, bridging the infinite distance between stars with the warmth of belonging. The Chronicles were complete, yet life continued, flowing in harmony between the wanderers, their allies, and the living planet. Their story would endure, whispered across galaxies, a tale of hope, courage, and the home they had forged where none had existed before.